Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's your boy Ben and JB from JB on Sports Media coming at you guys with our Monday night reaction to the last wildcard game from wildcard weekend. Yes, we are talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Houston Texans. This game is now officially wrapped up. The Houston Texans absolutely demolish the Pittsburgh Steelers. Final score 30-6. I'll throw it to JB first. JB, what are your immediate thoughts on this game and how it played out?
My immediate thoughts is I thought this Houston defense was exactly who they were. Even in that
Absolutely.
first, even with the first half being 7-6, me and you were on the phone, basically this entire game, just chit chatting back and forth, and we said that we loved how the Steelers played in the first half, keeping it close. Obviously, we said that they needed to have more of an offensive output, and we thought that in the second half they'd make some serious adjustments, but that just never came to fruition. But this Texans D just even got more tenacious with giving up only 6 in the first half and then actually not giving up any in the second half, completely dominating Pittsburgh 23-0 in the second half. Just totally took over the game. They made Aaron Rodgers look uncomfortable. They made him look old. I don't want to say that and hurt his feelings, but they made him look old. They
They
made
did.
him look like he didn't want to do this anymore. And after a couple of sacks, he just felt like, I don't know if this is gonna pan out and go the way he wants it to go. Each drive got worse. Honestly, they just did not look like a cohesive unit offensively. And not for nothing, their linebackers and defensive backs, they didn't really play good in coverage. They were letting Stroud, connect on some big third downs. There was a couple of 2nd and 7, 2nd and 8s where he was able to convert first downs, and that's demoralizing,
It
for a
is.
defense. And there was a lot of plays where Stroud overthrew a lot of receivers and was overthrowing. A couple plays where he was throwing on the run and he missed some wide open receivers. I know Nico Collins. There was a play that he had Nico Collins wide open and he could have probably took it to the house and didn't. So he's going to work on that. But when your defense is that good, you could make some mistakes like that because they just give you every opportunity to go out and keep scoring points, especially when you shut out a team in the second half of a playoff game. But if the Texans are going to force turnovers, multiple turnovers, there's probably a good chance that they win the game. So they did their job. And listen, hats off to Aaron Rodgers, phenomenal career. I mean, you couldn't have asked for more. He was literally a top 5 quarterback every year that he played. Up until the last couple of years. And obviously there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. What does this mean for Mike Tomlin? Does he move on to a new challenge and
Right.
take on a new position elsewhere? Or does he ride off into the sunset and say, hey, I need a break from football? I doubt that. I think me and you both know that he'd rather go somewhere else and continue his career. But for Aaron Rodgers, what does this mean? Does he go to a different team now, or try to find maybe the perfect system, or does he stick it out one more year with Pittsburgh, or does he ride off into the sunset as well? For me personally, I think he's kind of done. I think we both saw him mouthing on the sideline that this was probably it to his teammates. So I could consider him basically retiring at the end of the year as something that's possible. But this was a really good first half. Obviously, he got ugly in the second half, but I think the New England Patriots are going to have a problem next week with this Houston Texans team. I think if C.J. Stroud can protect the ball, not turn it over, make some big plays, either with his feet or with his arm, and hopefully that running game does what they did tonight. They were pretty efficient, running the football. I think they're going to be a problem. I really do. They have a great defense, and if their offense does what they did tonight, I think New England's going to run into a ton of problems.
Yeah, that's such a fair point to make because that is the next matchup we look at. And just to let people know, we're going to have our divisional predictions up Wednesday morning with a special guest. Another content creator will be joining
Yeah,
us for our special prediction, divisional round prediction video. It's going to be a special guest, and I hope you guys are tuned in for that one. I'm pretty sure we're going to have Mike in that one as well. He's a little bit under the weather right now. Uh, Regardless, stay tuned for that. So make sure you guys subscribe. Talking about this game, though, the Texans' run game right here was magnificent. Woody Marks breaking through that D line. And the offensive line for the Texans, in my opinion, was very impressive as well. They gave Stroud enough time to throw. Once they got that run game going, the big completions to guys like Christian Kirk. Uh, Unfortunately, Nico Collins did get carted off. It looked like it was a head injury, but if it's a concussion or anything like that, I've never really seen, or this is my personal opinion, somebody get carted off due to that. I always seen them get helped out, maybe walk, jog to the tunnel. So maybe it's something else. I don't want to speculate or anything like that, but I want to give an MVP to, well, co-MVP, one to Will Anderson. That guy is such a stud. I got to give him his flowers.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
two, Christian Kirk stepping up in a huge way when Nico Collins got hurt. CJ Stroud towards the end of the game finally connecting on those big throws right there. And yes, this Texans defense will eat you alive, and that's what they did to Rodgers towards the end of the game, specifically on that pick six, man. It just looked like that sting on the ball when he threw it just looked like it had no fast movement whatsoever. It just looked like
Yeah.
it was an easy pick six, and it just made me feel sad because I know he was getting beaten up there, bro. I'm not even saying that the Steelers' O-line didn't hold its own necessarily speaking, but when it comes to that Texans defense, we knew what was going to happen, guys. Let's not kid ourselves at all. This Texans defense has been talked about as elite for the whole year, and guess what? They proved it today. That they're an elite defense, even getting 2 touchdowns via turnovers, and that is a major plus for them. I would like to talk about for a second, like you mentioned, Mike Tomlin's future. I don't know. I don't know where he's looking at, if he's looking at a future still in Pittsburgh or if he wants to go somewhere else, a new challenge. I think that will be on him to decide. I don't think the Steelers will dismiss him from his role unless they really do feel like, seven, and we'll talk about it. Matter of fact, I'll pull it up right now. The Steelers have lost 7 straight playoff games. Well, ownership say, look, that's 7 straight losses. We get bounced. Their last playoff win was when Barack Obama was still president of the United States.
Wow.
A lot of stuff has happened since then, guys. And still, the Steelers haven't found success in the playoffs. And now thinking about that, does ownership think to themselves, look, we gave it a great run. You're a Super Bowl champion. We admire you in Pittsburgh, but it's over. Or does he take that leadership within himself? I want a new challenge. I want to go to New York. I want to go to Atlanta. I want to find a new head coaching job for me. Or even, like you said, option C. It was a great run as a head coach. Aaron's gone. What if I just call it quits? Which I don't think will happen, but still an option, right? When it comes to Rodgers, I will say this. I do believe even from the start of the season when he went on the Pat McAfee show and said, I signed a 1-year deal for a reason. This is most likely it. I know during the season he hinted at possibly playing another one, but just seeing how he was getting beaten up there, man, it just made me very, very sad because it's like, it's been a long career. It's been a long run, and I wore his jersey today. This is actually the Super Bowl jersey when we won. It's a great career. And if you want to go out like this, or even if he wants to play one more year, that's totally on him. He said he's not, I just saw the presser, he's not going to make any emotional decision right now. But I do believe that's it. I think that's it for a variety of reasons. One, what he said at the beginning of the year at the Pat McAfee show, but two, also what I don't think he wants to keep, or maybe he does. Maybe he wants torture. He fractured his hand this year. He's got him beaten up bad left and right. Those sacks aren't the same as they were when he was 27, 28. They're not.
Absolutely.
And you know what? He's had a fantastic career, 4-time MVP, first ballot Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champion. He's made my childhood great. I mean, I will only tip my cap out to him. And like I said, I have nothing bad to say about Aaron Rodgers. And you know what? For the Steelers season in general, I think there will be some changes. What will it be? I'm not sure, to be honest. I've been trying to think about that even as that video progresses. Is this really it for Tomlin? I don't know.
I mean, I personally think it is. I personally think Tomlin, I think he needs a fresh start. I think he's a really vocal leader, and I think he'd be great, with any team, honestly.
Right.
I think he could turn around any franchise that's lacking victories and wins. I do think he'd have success. And he's definitely a disciplinarian. He definitely holds people accountable. So I love that about any head coach, holding his players accountable and making sure the job gets done.
Absolutely.
But look, in terms of Aaron Rodgers, you could say he's definitely one of the top 5 greatest quarterbacks that we've ever seen play.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter how old you are. You could be 12, 13. You could be 35, 36. There's not many quarterbacks that we could say played on his level. I mean, the fact that, listen, I'll be 38 in 2 months. The fact that I saw Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers in the prime of my life is almost very hard for a lot of people to say that they saw 2 quarterbacks in that caliber play at the same time, literally, and to see them both win. I know Aaron only won once compared to 7 for Brady, but the fact that those 2 are playing at such a high level for so long, the fact that Brady played till he was 45, Aaron's 42, it's just unbelievable in its own right that these guys played such a tough sport, a tough position for that long. And not for nothing, the fact that Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles literally 2.5 years ago and was able to come back and play 2 full seasons in the NFL after that is just unbelievable in its own right. So he's definitely a shoo-in for first ballot Hall of Fame
No doubt.
status and rightfully so. I mean, it is a shame that he couldn't win one more. I think winning one more would have cemented him as maybe a top 3 quarterback of all time. But the fact that he was able to really come back after that Achilles injury really proved that he's a warrior and he's a really gutsy performer, as well as him being uber talented. I mean, I've never seen a quarterback throw a football the way he could throw a football, with the flick of his wrist like that. Just sometimes those no-look passes. I mean, he was literally an innovator at the quarterback position for a long time. And, obviously as a Packer fan, you lose Brett Favre and then you get Aaron Rodgers. I mean, talk about spoiled.
Yeah.
That's it's unbelievable that you were able to experience such great quarterback play for so long. And now Jordan Love. I mean, it's not like you've slowed down. You got Jordan Love now, who's a pretty decent too. So listen, if this is it for Aaron Rodgers, it's been one of the best careers at the quarterback position that you could possibly ask for. And as far as Mike Tomlin, I don't think that his journey ends. I think it's just going to continue somewhere else. Obviously, I think he takes a job that's maybe a little bit more favorable. Maybe he takes a look at Atlanta. Maybe he takes a look at New York. It's definitely a possibility. Maybe obviously, I don't think he looks at the Baltimore job just out of the rivalry.
Out of respect.
But I could definitely see him taking a look at New York and maybe that Vegas job as well. Who knows? So I don't think Tomlin's done. I definitely think we see him coaching on the NFL sidelines again.
Yeah, and for Rodgers, just a quick moment. I mean, this is the guy I grew up with. Obviously, I remember watching the last Brett Favre game as a Packer, and then seeing the transition to Rodgers. That was so surreal. Winning the Super Bowl with Rodgers, seeing his 4 MVPs. We were so close a multitude of times. I'll be there at Lambeau for sure when his name goes up there and we acknowledge him for just, to me, the greatest talent I've ever seen at the quarterback position ever. And yes, I know Brady is probably the greatest of all time, but talent-wise, his arm, precision, bro, you won't see it like Aaron Rodgers. And even his mannerism and everything like that. I mean, this is just a guy I feel like is very misinterpreted. And I think he's gotten a lot of shit from the media a lot of times. Not a lot of people have trusted and, believed in certain stuff he said. And, I know he's gotten in trouble a few times, this and that. I don't care about all that. To me, this guy is one of the best things that's happened during my childhood. And seeing him growing up with Aaron Rodgers as my quarterback, absolute blessing. Look, Super Bowl champion, like you said, first ballot Hall of Famer. I let my hair down for this one. And I pulled this picture up on purpose. Just like Rodgers, when Rodgers grew out long hair during quarantine and COVID was the first time I grew out long hair. And I had a feeling that this season might be it. So I was like, I'm going to let it grow out one more time. And afterwards, let it go. But look, this guy to me is childhood hero. I can't thank him enough for the memories. Like I said, when he comes back to Lambeau and we celebrate his career, we're going to celebrate it to the best because even though we miss a few opportunities to get some extra chips right there in for him, look, you can't doubt 4 MVPs and those MVP seasons, specifically his last 2, extraordinary seasons. And I wish him the best if this is it, which I do believe it's it. I know he said he doesn't want to make an emotional decision right now, but I do believe that this is it for him. I just don't see a possible another year. I could be wrong, but if he hangs it up right here, I have nothing but gratitude for this guy, and I wish this guy the best and happiness. I know he said he doesn't want to be a part of the media. When he retires, he's going to go on his little tunnel and, just go AWOL, and, we'll never hear from this guy again. And I hope that's not true because I would love to get his insight on the game. I think this guy is such a brilliant football mind that I would hate to see him just go and disappear. But I think that's the type of guy he is, and that's why at the end of the day, I'll always respect him for who he is. And to me, nothing but gratitude. Look, he played for both of our teams, and obviously success in one of them, but the other one, the Jets, the torn Achilles. It's an inspiring story even coming back from that. I'll say that. So.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the fact that he had the season that he had in 2024 was unbelievable. Just the fact that he was able to play, the full year after coming back, and his age was obviously in question. But I mean, like you said, this guy was phenomenal. I remember him in my earlier years of watching football and seeing this guy. It was almost like watching a magician. He was really that fantastic. But he ran into a defense tonight that is just was relentless. They were hungry. They're fast paced. They play at a really high level. And I can't blame him. He ran into a big monster, and that monster ate him up. And this is what happens in the NFL, bro. I
Yep.
mean, when you run into a team when you run into a young team like that, that's got speed, they're elusive, they can tackle, they make plays downfield with, against big time receivers. They have great corners. That their defensive line gets after it. This team is complete, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And if they're going to run the ball the way they did tonight, 165 yards, I think they average 5.5 yards a carry. They are going to be a massive problem. CJ Stroud threw for 250 yards tonight, and plus that, like I said, 165 on the ground. If they do that, averaging almost, close to 450 yards of offense, it's going to be tough to beat this Texans team, and that's why I think it's going to be a really tough game next week with them and New England. But like I said, tip my hat to Aaron Rodgers. This was a phenomenal career, and I'm really happy to see what this Texans team does too, because they're a young team, and DeMeco Ryans has had them playing, I mean, lights out. The last 3 months have just been phenomenal football. They were teetering, being at 500 for a while, and then they won. I think it was the last 8 in a row, and they've just been hot ever since. So kudos to them. Ryans has this team playing absolutely lights out.
Yeah, DeMeco Ryans, like I said, huge shout out to him. The defense in general. I think it's kind of poetic if this is it for Rodgers and looking at how his season has come to an end due to that young Texans defense that just has that pressure and has that hunger in them. And they want that Super Bowl so bad, just like I'm assuming the offense and DeMeco does as well, all that staff. But it's kind of like, all right, that team came there to put the dog out and, basically take it out. Like, I'll be honest, like on some old Yeller type of shit. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, they came in there and they did exactly what they had to do. And I gave nothing but props to Houston. What a game for them defensively. And when Stroud needed to hit those throws to Kirk, he did that, and he did that in a big way. There's no denying that. A little sloppy with the ball. Yes, he had 3 turnovers. That can't happen against New England. Because guess what? Drake May will use his mobility in a game like that the way that Aaron Rodgers can. So I do believe that matchup is still a toss-up. I'm not leaning, or I'm not going to spoil where I'm leaning at the moment, because that video will be coming out tomorrow. But I think it's going to be a very intriguing matchup in Foxborough. And I know that will be the Sunday 3 p.m. game now. The Bears game will be at the night slate on Sunday. So, yes, we're going to get Pats Texans. And I think it's going to be a very interesting coaching matchup as well between Vrabel and DeMeco Ryans. I'm so excited for that game.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be a phenomenal game. And you made a good point when it comes to the 3 turnovers that Houston had tonight. CJ Stroud cannot be fumbling on non-contact plays. If you're getting the ball, spiked to you in a shotgun, make sure you catch the ball before you throw it.
Right.
They actually showed that replay. He wasn't even looking at the snap. He was trying to, I guess, force the ball somewhere. He probably saw he had like a broken coverage somewhere, and he didn't secure the football, and he fumbled. So, and then he actually got the ball back and fumbled again. So you got to be a little bit better with the football.
Absolutely.
But like I said, when you throw for 250 yards and your running game produces another 165, and your defense is playing like they're dogs possessed, it's going to be a long night for the opponent. So if he could just clean it up just a little bit, he doesn't have to go crazy. If he just cleans it up a little bit and there's a little bit more, sound with protecting the football, like I said, this Houston Texans team could go up against anybody. And I don't think they're scared of anybody either. I think they play with,
they're not.
They play with a big chip on their shoulder. They definitely play as if they're the underdogs, and they're looked at as the team that you're on the up and coming. No, I think they're here. Like I said, they'll go as far as their quarterback can go, because this defense is honestly, it's limitless of what they could do.
Yeah, it's going to be an intriguing matchup. We'll keep you guys updated on the status of Nico Collins. By the way, it just happened. I kind of doubt that he's going to play on Sunday. I mean, look, he got carted off due to a head injury. I think it was.
Yeah. Which is alarming. When you get carted off for a head injury, that means you couldn't walk. Your equilibrium, exactly. Your equilibrium is off. Maybe you can't see, blurry vision. So that's definitely alarming that he couldn't walk off on his own merit. So
we'll keep you guys updated for that. But
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
well, it'll be something we for sure keep in factor for the Texans and Pat's prediction portion of the video tomorrow. But without further ado, let us know what you guys thought about this game of the Texans destroying the Pittsburgh Steelers. Final score 30-6. We appreciate you guys, all the support that you guys have shown this wildcard weekend. It's been absolutely tremendous. Mike will be back and a special guest on our next episode. It's going to be amazing. Make sure you guys subscribe here to JBM Sports Media. Follow us on TikTok. Follow us on IG at JBM Sports Media. And from there, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.